Okay, good. Good afternoon. I'm Lori Keppel. Nice of you to join us today. We wanted to spend a few minutes talking about uh, some staffing solutions for you to consider in your facility. We are so happy and fortunate that we have partnered with EasyShifts. They're one of our Wisconsin Director of Nursing Council business partners. And Michael and I and Melissa and Missy Pullman, who's on from Riverside in La Crosse and currently uses EasyShifts. We've been having some conversations about how very much a solution like EasyShifts can help us meet the requirements that were recently released with the facility assessment, addressing specifically recruitment and retention needs, the contingency staffing piece, and another big positive from my perspective is just the ease of the application itself and how you then as the leader can focus your time and efforts on other matters and allow EasyShift to work with you to enhance those outcomes. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael. If you can do a basic introduction of the EasyShift system, tell us what it's about, where it grew from, and then we can talk about some specific questions and answers.
Sure. So I'm Michael Christensen. I'm a Wisconsin born and raised. I live over here in Appleton, but actually grew up an hour north of there. And I'm a founder of EasyShifts. So my co-founder and I, we started this back in 2008. My co-founder was an RN himself, and he had the idea. In fact, at the time, he was working at 3 different hospitals in the Green Bay area, and just wanted to be able to have access to his work schedule. And being very rural in Wisconsin, a lot of times the nursing staff have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to go to work. So it would be really helpful to be able to have access to the work schedule without having to actually physically go in and look at the paper schedule. So that was kind of the idea. So it was invented by an RN who wanted flexibility. He wanted access to his work schedule. And then from there, we pioneered self-scheduling software for the healthcare space. So we've been around for 16 years. It was founded here in Wisconsin, started in Wisconsin hospitals. Later, we expanded to skilled nursing and senior living around 12 years ago. And we have this experience helping hospitals implement flexible scheduling. We've learned a lot of things along the way, because one thing about our company is we work very closely with our customers. We don't come up with any of our own product ideas. Everything we have has been because of conversations and discussions we've had with our actual customers. So we've really seen how by providing self-scheduling or providing flexibility or providing this kind of access as a perk to your employees can really be a key ingredient to fostering a healthy work culture. In fact, it makes people want to work at your facility. So that also leads to retention. And over time, it's a scary concept maybe for some to try to go to technology or to go to a self-scheduling program. But over time, fears diminish, trust and respect build up, and workforce problems start to disintegrate. So that's a little bit about us.
Michael, when you and I were talking over the last couple of weeks, you read over the weekend, you read F838 in the facility assessment, because I was asking specifically how I wanted to know how EasyShifts could be built into a facility's recruitment and retention plan. Could you talk a little bit about what you discovered once you reviewed the state operations manual, that piece, and what exists in EasyShifts could meet the recruitment and retention, some of that piece that we need to demonstrate?
So doesn't everybody read the state operations manual on a Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, I know you did it on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, everybody does that, because first I looked at it on a Friday and I thought, oh, yeah, this is nice. And then I looked at it the next day and the whole thing changed, right? So then it said updated August 8th. I thought, oh, that's neat. Does this happen all the time, that these requirements are constantly changing? So I got a little taste of what it's like to to live in the world of a DON. I don't know if you have mentioned, it's worth mentioning, but my grandmother was a DON in Wisconsin for 35 years. So it's something I've been familiar with my entire life. But looking at the manual specifically, we're looking at F838 around the
Yep.
facility assessment. And there's a lot of red in that section if you go through the current document. There's a lot of red. And I highlighted 5 specific areas because we only have 30 minutes to talk, and we wanted to leave 10 minutes to let those in attendance to offer comments or questions or join the discussion. But there's 5 specific things that I highlighted. One of them had to do with the fact that, obviously you need to have staff, but they wanted the facility to consider specific staffing needs broken down by day, evening, night, and weekend. Like that was one of the changes that came in, is they want it broken down by day, evening, night, and weekend. A second point that jumped at me was that they specifically mentioned that the facility assessment must be used to develop and maintain a plan to maximize direct care staff recruitment and retention. Like, and that was a newly added. So because I got to see the old version, the new version, I'm like, oh, all this stuff changed. A third thing was around training. Now, if you read through that document, they're constantly talking about competencies and skills required, and all of it has to tie back to, your assessment of the resident population, right? Like what specific needs do they have? That changes over time as you have new admissions. And you need to develop and train and maintain an effective training program for all the new and existing staff, that whatever's relevant to your resident population. And then a fourth one that jumped out at me was evidence-based, data-driven methods, appropriate competencies and skill sets. So they would like it if whatever plan we put together, whatever we're putting in our assessment, is backed up by data, right? We have real hard data to say, these are the number of dementia residents I have. These are the number of people that need this level of care. And these are the number of staff that we employ, or how many licensed CNAs we have, how many licensed RNs, all these different things. If you can put numbers with it, it's pretty evident from the way all this is worded that that's what they would like to see. And then a fifth one that stood out to me, if we have time to talk about it today, because I'm already talking too much, but a contingency plan for events that do not require the activation of the facility emergency plan. So in the day-to-day operations of a nursing home, things can go wrong. You can have call-ins, sick calls, people quit. You could have just all sorts of things could go wrong. They're not necessarily rising to the level of emergency, but there needs to be some kind of a plan to smooth over the day-to-day. So, and the beauty of all those things are things that I believe that EasyShifts has been for the last decade and a half enormously helpful with facilities. But what we need to do now is we need to see, how do we get credit for all that work we're doing, right? Like, how do we get, you're working so hard to fix all these things. You're trying to have staff, you're making sure you have staff, you're making sure you give good care. How do you get credit for it on your assessment? Like, how do you put it down in your assessment so that when the state comes through, they recognize that you're a top-notch operation and acknowledge all the work you're doing. So that's one of the things that we kind of want to talk about too.
So Michael, the contingency staffing plan and the way that EasyShifts promotes the self-scheduling and a replacement of each other instead of that call-off system, that infrastructure in itself is a strategy to build contingency staffing plans, because you're empowering your employees to take ownership of managing that schedule. And you're allowing them the flexibility. A bonus is you're allowing them the flexibility to schedule time around their lives, which meets some of the requirements of our younger employees these days, which can feed into a retention strategy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we've seen evidence of that. Like, we're not, we went out there just thinking that, a nurse wanted to have access to their schedule. So we started from the nurse perspective, but over time, we got to see the real concrete benefits that came about because of it. Like, in fact, there was a quote here from one of our longtime customers. She said, we have a culture where everybody understands teamwork embraces new employees, is open and welcoming, and is also a big part of why the self-scheduling policy through EasyShifts works for us, because people want to help each other out. So really
Yeah.
it comes down to building culture in the end. What you're doing is you're building culture. You're creating this environment where, as the employer, you show respect to the workforce, but in turn, they have this responsibility. And what so many of our customers have been able to do is say, if you want time off to go to your child's recital 3 weeks from now, go to EasyShifts, put your shift up for grabs. If one of your coworkers can take it for you, I'll approve the time off, because EasyShifts will see the conflict in the schedule. And then once everything's clear, they train their staff to kind of handle that on their own, rather than having to go through the manager, having to get approvals for everything. The team ends up working together, which is a beautiful thing, because everybody's life is dynamic. Everyone's life is constantly changing, new issues pop up, and they know what's going on in their life. You know, some systems out there, they try to use a computer algorithm to create these schedules, and it just doesn't work, because everybody knows what's going on in their own lives. And that way you develop that culture, and then because of it, they also feel more empowered, appreciative, and they tend to want to stay working at places like that.
It could make a difference in some of the facilities that are just struggling to figure out how to make all those pieces fit. I'm going to ask Missy to tell us a little bit about her experience with EasyShifts and how you feel, even in this tough work environment, especially you in the La Crosse area. How do you feel that EasyShifts has been such a valuable asset to you, and as the director of nursing are trying to lead your clinical workforce?
Yeah, I actually have used EasyShifts even at the previous building I was at as a nurse. So I was able to see what it looks like as a nurse all the way up to where I am now. And I think the biggest thing is the organization piece. You find that if things look unorganized, you're going to set a tone, and you're going to set a culture of not being prepared and not being ready. And that is one huge thing that my staff love to know. They know before coming in what hallway they're going to be at, who they're going to be working with. And that is a huge benefit, especially with such a big building. We're a 123 bed facility. And so the schedule can look really messy on paper. I've seen it. I've seen the old ones, and it kind of made me panic a little bit. So EasyShifts better never go down. It is really really flexible too. So it is nice for us because we can add all these different labels. So let's say we're struggling with having CNAs. I can try to recruit some more support aides. I can recruit some of our rec therapy aides to come in as a support aide. So staff don't feel like we have the bodies there and they're assigned and you're going to be supported. It really allows those folks that are being orientated to know exactly where they're going and who they're going to be working with. Those that are orientating know exactly who they're looking for, and they're prepared for it ahead of time. It's not a surprise, like, really, now I got to orientate somebody today. So I think those are probably the top likes that I have for EasyShifts.
Yeah.
What other questions do you have for me?
I think in your facility, how you just described that you layer on the support staff when you don't have a CNA to fill that vacant position, because you have vacant positions open. You're in La Crosse. It's a highly competitive market, but the use of the support aides, it gives peace of mind to the staff, knowing they are going to have peers there, to people to help when they show up to work. But also that, in my opinion, is another demonstration of a contingency staffing plan and how that's put into action. I think, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think that,
Go ahead, Missy.
No, I just wanted to make a comment about facility assessment is, I think people are very overwhelmed with this, but I think if you break it down, you need to look at what you're already doing, because that's what it's made me do. And really what we're doing is writing down what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
Just taking
so I
credit.
think that Easy Shifts has been, yeah, I mean, it's objectified my ability to prove that we can run this building, and run it well.
And your scheduler is not able to be on today, but I did talk with Hannah, and Michael knows Hannah as well. And it's a time saver. I mean, anybody who has had to manage that schedule knows that can be completely overwhelming. And to have the plan in place and posted so staff know what's going on and know where to report to, and work to replace vacant positions, I think is a system that helps us be able to manage the schedule instead of the schedule managing us some days. Michael, you talked about a report feature in Easy Shifts. How
Yeah.
can that data be useful for buildings looking for solutions for their facility assessment?
Well, we have all the information about how many RNs, how many CNAs, how many LPNs you have in a given day. I mean, that's already a requirement for DHS. Like DHS wants you to put a report on the wall every day telling you how many you have in each category by, AM, afternoon, and night.
Yeah.
But why can't we take that same information and put that in the facility assessment? Because they're asking about that. That first requirement that we talked about was consider specific staffing needs for each shift, day, evening, night, and weekend. Well, Riverside has been doing that for like 8 years now with the way they schedule. Like you have a block of time for your CNAs for the AM, a block for the CNAs for the PM, and a block for the CNAs at night, and they're separated that way. And just the nature of the way Easy Shifts works, Easy Shifts helps you identify what coverage you need, whether you've filled it or not, whether it's an open shift or it's assigned. You're making a statement that these are how many bodies or roughly how much coverage we're going to need based on our current our resident population. So they already have that. Missy, you have a breakdown of day, afternoon, and night, and also weekend, and the coverage is different. It reflects the changing needs, and we can report on that. We have in fact, I think it was Sue Tracer from Riverside sometime like 5 years ago. She was the one that requested it, but we added an AM, PM, night report that literally breaks down everything that way onto a single page to put on a report. Or we have a similar report for a daily staffing summary that we can run that shows you kind of some of the breakdowns of what you have in each category. But one thing I know too that well, Eagle Crest or Bethany Lutheran at large, but Riverside also does really well, is just having a good training program. And then actually showing that, because you mentioned orientation, but there's a lot of different ways to look at that, right? There's different types of orientation, there's different kinds of training. All of that can be scheduled in Easy Shifts, and I know that that's what they're doing. They have specific resource slot set up for orientation, and then right on the shift, we use a feature called a secondary assignee, where we can see who's training who, right? So if I'm the one that's being trained and Missy's providing the training, like I might show up in an orientation slot, and then it shows right on the shift the trainer is Missy. But then when you look at Missy, maybe she's working a regular, RN charge nurse slot, but it'll show on hers that she's training Michael. So that's all indicated right in the schedule. All that training is accounted for. In fact, we also, at a request from them, added a feature that would prevent scheduling somebody a full shift before their training has been completed or approved by the trainer. So those are all things that essentially that's what they're asking for in this facility assessment, like evidence-based strategic methods, having a plan to develop, implement, and maintain effective training program and new staff. You can show that we schedule the training, we assign specific people to train them. We have a record of all that. We can go back 5 years and see who is training who on a given day. All that data is available and can be put into the facility assessment.
Yeah. The demands of the clinical and operations leaders in our nursing homes and assisted living communities. It's beyond just trying to juggle many priorities throughout the day. So I think it's a really great time, and we're going into budget season for some of our organizations to really think about where we put our time and efforts, and if partnering with vendors makes sense for your organization. And the added benefit is we can show some quality outcomes from that and meet federal requirements. So you can focus your time and efforts in other areas that there aren't vendor relationships that you can partner with. It's worthy to explore it now, in my opinion. Wondering where, like, down to like 5 minutes, the time flew, and we have some folks on the call. Does anybody have questions? You can post them in the chat if you don't want to ask, or you can go off of mute and ask questions. If and when folks on this call want to get a hold of you, Michael, how can they do that?
Well, they can either just go to our website, EasyShifts.com, and then there's a book a demo link right there they can click to if they want to see our product. Otherwise, they can email me. I can just type it in the chat here, but it's really easy. It's just michael@easyshifts.com.
Yeah.
And I
Let's
would
do
just
that.
love to hear from you. You know, talk about ideas, things that we could do to improve processes. Right now with this updated facility assessment, we're already brainstorming things we can do to help our reporting to maybe go directly into some of that.
For sure. And
you know,
you said you'll be at the Leading Age Conference as a vendor. You'll be at WHCA YCAL as a vendor.
Yep.
You'll be at WALA as a vendor, and you've applied to be at Focus as a vendor. So there's going to be other opportunities in the next month to see you as well, and to get some merch if you have some
yeah, we have some
merch
really
at your table.
some really nice stoneware mugs that we give away. If you come there, we can give you some. We'll be at WONL as well. I'm not sure this group goes there. I know that's probably more hospital, but those are all places we'll be. So yeah, we look forward to meeting any of you face to face. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to talk to you and see how we can help.
Good. Missy, any final comments on your partnership with EasyShifts and how it's impacted you?
I will make sure that I am going to type in right now my information too, and I always encourage people to reach out to me if they have any questions, so we can talk DON to DON. So I will put that in the chat right now.
Very good. Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Michael, we'll continue our conversations on the state operations manual and ways EasyShift can solve the regulatory, is already solving regulatory issues, and we just haven't written it out yet.
We just have to get credit for it, for all the work you're doing. So, all right, thank you. Thank you, Laurie and Missy.
Thank
Good to see you guys.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.